Welcome everybody to this third lab in the series of 3 labs that I'm doing on PV, PVC, and mounting the volume on a pod. So let's look at our requirements. The requirement is we're going to mount this volume that we've created called pv-iowa onto any pod, any nginx pod. Now the prerequisite is that those PV and the PVCs have to exist to begin with. So let's first look at my context. I'm connected to my Minikube cluster, as you can see over here. Now, let's if we do k get pv, you will see that we have a pv named pv-iowa. It is bound. It is bound to what? If I do k get pvc, I see that this pvc is bound to the pv-iowa. If you wonder how I have all this, please look at the two previous videos, two previous labs. That's where I created the volume first and then created the PVC. Now we're going to use these two things, actually we're going to use the PVC to mount this volume onto a nginx pod. So first, let's just create a YAML file for an nginx pod. K run case alias for kubectl, K run nginx, that's the name of the pod. From image nginx, and we're actually not going to create this. We're going to do a dry run equal client so we can grab the YAML. That will be our starting point. Client -o YAML. Okay, let's save that into a file, YAML file, that we can edit and use to our advantage to do what we need to do. C.YAML. Now, before I start, this is something you need to understand for PV, PVCs, and mounting the volume. The way it works is the pod mounts the PVC. The pod mounts the PV using the PVC. The containers use that name that we were going to give it while we do that under the pod section, as you will see. We're going to refer to that name to actually mount it on the containers. Pod kind of mounts the volume, kind of sort of, because it just points to it. And then container is the one that mounts the volume using that name. And you will see in live action in just a minute. And this is why you can have 3 containers running in the same pod. They can mount the same volume under different path in each container. So there's the flexibility there. So that there's layers. The PV gives it a name while it mounts the volume. No, not the PV. The pod gives it a name while it mounts the volume. Container uses that name to grab it. So let's look at that. So to do this, the best thing to do is if we search for in Kubernetes website, which you will have access to during the test. If I search for PV, I get this. They don't do a good job of explaining step by step how to do PV, PVC. They kind of jump right in and they get into all kinds of details. However, towards the bottom of this page, they actually do a good job of mounting the volume in the end. So let's look at that example. If I keep going, it's at the very last, towards the very end of it. So we still claim volume cloning, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. I think I missed it. Okay, so let's go up. It'll be a pod definition. Here you go. Here's a pod definition. You see, this volume is under the spec of the pod. It's mounting using the PVC. Is mounting the volume under a name. The container then actually mounts. You see how it points to the same name. It uses that name that pod gave it and mounts that into a particular path on the homepage. On a particular directory on the container. So we can literally copy and paste this. So first of all, we don't need status. Under pod, we need the volume name. So we're just going to copy paste that. This is the volume that we're going to use under the pod. So here's pod spec. We're just going to come here and add this volume. This name could be whatever you want to give it. So just to make it stand out to you, I'm going to give it a funny name. Let's just say the name is going to be crazy volume on pod, right? Crazy volume on pod. That's the name the pod is going to give it. And the PVC, we already know the name of the PVC is pvc-iowa. That's already that PVC already exists. All right. So that's under the volume section under pod. Now under here, and the container is going to now mount that. And we're going to go here, and we're going to say, okay, under container, we have to do a volume mount. And that is where that is under same level as the image, right? So here's the image. So you can just put it here under the container volume, and this is the path. This is the path on the container that it mounts. Here's the name, and this is where I gave it a crazy name because it will stand out to you. Crazy volume on pod, right? That's the name pod gave it, but we're going to use that to mount it on the container. That's how you mount a volume. All right, let's give it a shot, see what happens. Okay, apply -f c.yaml. Ooh, lost the error message. Doesn't like warning, but it's using kubectl Kubernetes, blah, blah, blah. What? Warning. I'm not sure what's happening. Identical field, restart policy. Resource pod is missing the kubectl. Is there something running already? Okay, get pod. Okay, get pod. Yeah, that's why. So I had a pod running from 8 days ago. I need to kill that. K delete pod. It was It was thinking that I'm going to modify the pod, which I can't do. You can't modify running pod. K delete pod nginx. And now if I do that, nothing is running. Now if I apply, what happens? Didn't complain at all. So let's look at the pod. K get pod. Continue creating. Stick a little longer than, oh, there it is. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. It's finally running. And if I do, okay, get pod override, I get more information about the pod. It's running on this node called minikube because it's running on a minikube cluster. 20 seconds ago, this is the IP address, and that's about it. So if I now do describe pod nginx, I should see a whole bunch of stuff. Normal schedule, pulling the image, successfully pulled the image, created container, that's all good. Now, I would like to see, here you go, volume under volume, crazy volume pod, type is the PVC, claim name, this is the PVC name, pvc-iowa, it's not read-only, and I'm not sure what that means. Type it projective, I don't know what that means. Token, I don't know how that's relevant, but anyway, you get the idea. This volume is mounted with this name, crazy volume on pod, and it is mounted. Oh, there's mounts too, you see? There are two mounts. There's a secret that got mounted by default, and there's the web directory from crazy volume pod. All right, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe. That really helps me with my YouTube's algorithm, so you can see more videos. Other people can see more videos from my channel, and I will see you in the next CKA Lab.